For 4 years, I worked overseas to pay off my mother-in-law's medical bills, only to come home and catch my wife in bed with another man. But the real nightmare was discovering they were abusing my 9-year-old daughter, forcing her to cook and clean, even wash their personal laundry. Most cruelly, they caused Mom's death, and staged it as an accident. When they started conspiring to have me committed to a psychiatric facility, I set a trap using something they'd never expect. Now, 1 is dead, 2 are in prison, and I hold the crucial evidence of their downfall. From a betrayed husband to a revenger, this is my ultimate revenge. To treat my mother-in-law and pay off her debts, I worked overseas for 4 years. The day I returned, I found my wife had been sleeping with another man. My wife and the other man humiliated me, and Susan mocked me. When I agreed to divorce, I unexpectedly discovered they had caused Mom's death. In my fury, I decided to fight fire with fire. 4 years away from home, and I was finally back. Standing at the front door, though exhausted, I couldn't help but smile. I hadn't cooled ahead. Wanting to surprise my wife, Sarah, opening the door and stepping into the entryway, I heard a woman's voice, a rhythmic sound coming from the bedroom. I rushed to the bedroom doorway, and the sight before me instantly made my blood boil. Sarah and a man were entangled. The sound of my entry startled them. Sarah looked up, saw me, and her moans turned into a shriek. Her voice cracked. Ethan, how are you back? She said, pulling the comforter over herself. The other man quickly scrambled to put on his clothes. Who is he? I demanded, pointing at the man, my eyes bloodshot. Marcus, you should go. Sarah pushed the man out, caught them red-handed. There was no way I was letting them off easy. I reached out and grabbed the other man by his collar. No one's leaving until this is explained. The man was clearly intimidated by my 185 centimeters height. Bro, let's not get physical. We can talk this out. Ethan, don't get worked up. If you hurt him, you'll end up in prison too. Sarah didn't bother to get dressed. Lunging forward to pull us apart, she shoved me hard, and I instantly lost my balance. Falling to the floor, my back hit the door violently, making a loud thud. The two of them froze. Sarah looked at me with a confused expression, then noticed something unusual about my leg. Ethan, what happened to your leg? I braced myself with my hands, trying to stand, but my injured right leg couldn't bear the weight, and I fell back to the floor. Watching me struggle helplessly on the floor, Marcus suddenly laughed. Oh, so after a few years overseas, you've become a cripple. He kicked me hard with his foot. You pathetic cripple. I slept with your wife. What are you going to do about it? I sat on the floor, glaring at him, finding him somewhat familiar. I must have seen him before I went overseas, but I couldn't place him at the moment. Sarah saw my state and relaxed. She calmly dressed herself, then gently nudged Marcus. You should go first. If this goes on, the neighbors will hear. Marcus scoffed, pinching her waist. You always moan so loudly. Do you really think no one knows? Sarah swayed her hips, giggling. It's all your fault, you tease. The two of them shamelessly flirted in front of me. I was so furious I wanted to tear them apart, but I was powerless, only able to stare at them with angry eyes. Marcus looked down at me disdainfully. What are you looking at? Annoyed. Let me tell you, Sarah and I have been together for 4 years. I've been cheating on you for years. All right, aren't you on the night shift at the hospital today? Hurry up and go, don't be late. Sarah pushed Marcus towards the door. As he passed me, Marcus spat in my face and walked away triumphantly. I furiously wiped my face with my sleeve, removing the spittle, but not the shame. Sarah saw him out the front door before returning. Seeing me sitting on the floor, she didn't even offer to help, just stepped over me and sat on the edge of the bed. Why are you back? She asked, looking at me without a hint of shame. I was fired, I said, my face clouded with gloom. A month ago, a falling tree hit me while I was logging. Though I barely survived, one of my legs was ruined. Because of that, I lost my job. No one would support a cripple. Sarah glanced at my ruined leg. Where's the money? Did they give you any compensation? I bit back my anger and asked, you don't care about your husband's well-being, only about money. Anyone can see your leg is crippled. You are disabled. What's there to ask? Sarah held out a hand. How much compensation did they give you? Hand it over. The compensation was about $300,000, and normally I would have handed it over without question, but the recent events made me wary. No compensation, I said, lowering my head. My boss saw I was injured. just bought me a ticket home and fired me. Sarah's face changed when she heard that. Why didn't you demand it from him? That's a work-related injury, you know. Overseas is different from here, with the language barrier. There was nowhere to appeal. I'm lucky to be back alive. Useless. Seeing there was no money, Sarah couldn't be bothered with me anymore. She leaned back against the headboard, playing on her phone. I used the doorknob to pull myself up from the floor with difficulty. Sarah, aren't you going to explain what happened with that man? What's there to explain? Sarah didn't even glance at me. What you saw is what it is. I was out there, working hard every day to pay off your family's debts, and you were at home, hooking up with another man. How can you do this to me? What have I done to you? Sarah slammed her phone onto the bed, sat up, and yelled, you were having a grand time overseas, leaving the whole family to me. With elders above and children below, I had to handle everything by myself. Do you think it was easy for a woman like me? When I left, Susan was in the hospital, my mother wasn't in good health, and my daughter, Lily, was only 5. Thinking of this, I felt a pang of guilt. It's true you've had it tough these past few years, handling everything alone, but I sent you all the money I earned during that time, easily 500,000 or 600,000. If you were too busy, you could have hired a housekeeper. There was no need to get involved with another man. I can hire someone to do chores, but can I just hire someone when I want a man at night? Sarah rolled her eyes at me. Since you've seen it, it's best we clear things up in your current state. I can't spend the rest of my life with a cripple. Let's get a divorce. A wife cheating. No man could stand that. But thinking of Lily, she was so young. Divorce would surely damage her innocent mind. I decided to endure everything that had just happened. Sarah, it hasn't been easy for you to take care of the elders and Lily alone these past few years. While I was away, you were lonely, and that's why you got involved with that man. I can understand. As long as you cut ties with him, from now on, I'll pretend I never knew, and we can go back to living as we did before. Sarah scoffed. Before, you were an able-bodied man. Now, your arms and legs are useless, and you can't even find a job. Are you expecting me to support you for the rest of my life? I don't need you to support me. I'll definitely find a way to make money and provide for you and Lily. In your condition, you'd be begging on the streets just to get a few coins. You might be willing, but I'm too embarrassed for that. Sarah stood before me, arms crossed, and said coldly, Ethan, I'm making myself clear today. You are a cripple now, and I won't stay with you and let you drag me down. Rest tonight, and tomorrow we'll go to the courthouse to file for divorce. What about Lily? I'm not taking a burden. Once we're divorced, you can take her away immediately. That didn't sound like something a mother would say. It was clear she didn't care about her daughter. My heart ached thinking about what Lily must have gone through these past few years. I asked, what time does Lily get out of school? 4:30. It's already past 4. Why aren't you going to pick her up? She usually comes home by herself. She's only 9. You let her walk to and from school alone. Aren't you afraid she'll run into bad people? I hurried out. Which elementary school does she go to? I'll go pick her up. I always thought of myself as a tough man, but the moment I saw my daughter, my eyes welled up. In the crowd, children who had just been dismissed from school rushed towards their waiting families. Only Lily walked home alone, head bowed. Compared to her classmates, she seemed thin and short. Her small face wore a stillness that didn't belong to her age. Was this still my lively, cheerful daughter, whose eyes used to curve into crescents when she smiled? Lily. My daughter looked up, turning towards my voice. When she saw me, she froze. She rubbed her eyes, stared at me for a long moment, then came running towards me. Dad, you are back. My daughter threw herself into my arms, hugging my waist tightly. Lily, you still remember Dad? I stroked my daughter's head. My heart swelled with emotion. She was only 5 when I left. On the way here, I'd worried she wouldn't remember me. Lily let go of me, rummaged through her backpack, and pulled out a photo, her voice trembling with tears. She said, Dad, look, I always carried your photo with me, waiting for you to come home every day. The photo was somewhat crumpled, probably from being held and looked at often. In the photo, Lily was sitting on a carousel, and I stood beside her, guarding her. Both our faces were beaming with smiles. Back then, Lily's face was chubby. How did she become so thin now? My heart ached, and I hugged my daughter tightly. Ah, Lily cried out in pain. What's wrong? I quickly released her. Lily's face was contorted in pain, but she forced a smile. Dad, I'm fine. I took her arm and gently rolled up her sleeve. When I saw her exposed arm, I couldn't help but gasp. Her slender arm was covered in bruises, and there were 2 round scars, seemingly from cigarette burns. My voice trembled with heartache. Lily, tell Dad, who did this? It was Mom, Lily whispered. Why would she do this to you? I truly couldn't understand how a mother could be so cruel to her own daughter. Sometimes if I burned the food or didn't wash the clothes cleanly, she would pinch me. I couldn't believe my ears. She makes you cook and clean. Yes. Damn it. She actually made her 9-year-old daughter do all this. What about here? I asked, pointing to the 2 round scars. It was Uncle Marcus. Lily held it in for a moment, then finally burst into tears. He told me to call him Dad, and when I wouldn't, he burned me with a cigarette. I was trembling with rage. What else did the 2 of them do to you? They made me sweep and mop, and also wash Mom and Uncle Marcus' personal laundry, those 2 scumbags. They actually made my precious daughter serve them, and even wash their personal laundry. Damn them. Lily, if your mom treats you like this, why didn't you go to Grandma's house? She would have taken care of you, my daughter cried. Dad, Grandma passed away the winter you left. Lily's words were a complete shock, instantly stunning me. Mom had been gone for over 3 years, and I had no idea. How did she die? Mom said Grandma had an asthma attack, and she died before reaching the hospital. My mom had suffered from a chronic condition of asthma since she was young, but she was usually very careful, and it rarely flared up in recent years. I never imagined that while I was away, she would have relapsed and just passed away. Back home, Sarah was lying on the bed, playing on her phone. Seeing us enter, she quickly said a few words and hung up. Why are you back so late? Where have you been messing around? Sarah said impatiently to Lily. Aren't you going to make dinner? She's so young, and you are making her cook. What kind of mother are you? I accused her angrily. Do you think you have someone to back you up just because your dad's back? Sarah quickly got up from the bed and tugged Lily's ear. Now go. I quickly rescued my daughter from her grasp. I'll do it. Is that acceptable? After dinner, I told Lily to go do her homework and decided to have a serious talk with Sarah. Why didn't you tell me Mom passed away? Sarah's hand trembled, and the phone she was playing on almost dropped. Who told you that? Lily, she said Grandma passed away 3 years ago. What else did she say? Sarah sat upright. Nothing much. Why are you so nervous? I glanced at her. When Mom passed away, why didn't you even tell me over the phone? Would it have made a difference? Sarah leaned back against the headboard lazily. She died from a sudden illness. Even if you bought a ticket to come back, you would have only seen her one last time. Round-trip tickets cost over $10,000. Plus you'd need to take time off. Why bother coming back? Even if I didn't come back, you should have at least told me. Faced with my questioning, Sarah suddenly changed the subject. Oh, by the way, your MOMS house hasn't been transferred yet. Before we divorce, hurry up and get that done. She was so focused on divorce, and my heart gradually grew cold. If you want a divorce, fine, this house can be yours, and I'll live in MOMS house, but Lily must stay with me. You can have the child, but both houses must belong to me. I took care of your mother until she passed, so her house should be mine to inherit. Then where will Lily and I live? That's your problem, not mine. This woman cheated first, and now she wants me to leave with nothing. I couldn't reason with her, so I decided to go to Susan the next day and have her talk some sense into her daughter. I worked overseas mainly to raise money for Sarah's mother's surgery. That year, her mother was in a car accident. Because she ran a red light, she was primarily at fault, so the other driver only paid a few $1,000s out of goodwill. The rest had to be covered by her. Her mother had no medical insurance. The surgery cost over $200,000, plus post-operative rehabilitation, totaling over $300,000. For an ordinary family, this was a huge sum. Her family wasn't well off, and her parents had no savings. All this money was borrowed from relatives and friends. Sarah discussed it with me. My dad and mom are getting old, and they only have dad's few thousand in pension. They definitely can't pay back this money. How about you work overseas for a few years and pay off this debt? As the only son-in-law, paying off their family's debt was fine, but I didn't want to go overseas. After all, my dad had passed away a few years earlier, leaving Mom alone, and her health wasn't good. Plus, Lily was only 5, who would want to abandon their family and homeland to work overseas. But Sarah kept crying and nagging every day, accusing me of not fulfilling my duty as a son-in-law. In the end, I had no choice but to agree to work overseas. The job she found for me was as a forestry worker in Australia. She said the pay was good, and I could save enough money to come back sooner. Only after I got there did I realize it was one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Every year, many people were injured on the job, some even losing their lives. I worked for 2 years, constantly on edge, finally saving over $300,000, and was ready to return home. But Sarah said that the elders were getting old, and it was good to have some extra money in case anyone fell ill or faced a disaster. I had no choice but to continue. Last month, due to a co-worker's operational error, a falling tree landed on my right leg. After an emergency hospital visit, my leg was barely saved, but the nerves inside were damaged, causing impaired mobility. Simply put, I became a cripple. I became disabled because I was paying off her family's debts. Yet Sarah treated me like this. I believed Susan, if she knew, would surely take my side. The next day, after dropping Lily off at school, I rushed to Sarah's parents' house. They lived on the first floor. When I arrived, Susan was airing out comforters in the yard. Sarah must have told her I was back, as she wasn't surprised to see me, merely saying, "You are here." I limped over and helped her hang the comforter on the line. "Mom, I came today because there's something I want to tell you." "Go on," she said, showing no intention of inviting me inside. I had no choice but to stand beside her and whisper, "Mom, yesterday when I came home, I saw Sarah with a man." Before I could finish, Susan put her hands on her hips and glared at me. "My daughter and Marcus are just friends. It's a normal interaction. Don't you dare spread rumors." "Mom, but yesterday when I went back, the two of them were." Susan froze. It seemed she knew I had run into Marcus yesterday. Sarah probably felt embarrassed and hadn't gone into detail. Now, there was no way for her to deny it. She became furious with shame. "You are a man who left his wife at home to fend for herself, while you went to make money. Are you saying my daughter isn't allowed to find someone else? Besides, who knows how many women you were with while you were overseas all these years?" Hearing her words, my entire worldview shattered. "I went overseas to work precisely to pay off your family's debts. How can you blame me for that? If you were capable, you would have paid off a mere $300,000 without needing to work overseas. Ultimately, you were useless. I truly regret marrying Sarah to you. I should have found my daughter a wealthy man with good connections." At that moment, my heart sank completely. I spent 4 years and lost a leg to pay off her family's debts, and I didn't even get to see Mom one last time before she passed. Not only were they ungrateful, but they also humiliated me like this. I got angry too. "Fine, if you look down on me so much, then let's divorce. Give me back half of the money I earned." HMPH, my daughter married you all these years. Did you think you slept with her for free? That money can be considered compensation for her youth. I lost a leg for your family. How does that count? You deserve it. Susan glanced at my leg and snorted, "In your current state, you are completely unworthy of my Sarah. If you don't want to keep being a cuckold, hurry up and get the divorce done." I said angrily, "Do you really think that Marcus will be good to Sarah?" "Of course," Susan said, a smug look on her face. "Ever since I was in the hospital, I could tell Marcus was interested in my Sarah. These past few years, he's bought so many things for us old folks, much better than you, the son-in-law." When she was in the hospital, I suddenly remembered that Marcus was Sarah's mother's attending physician when she was hospitalized. No wonder he seemed familiar when I saw him. They might have hooked up back then. What's more, Susan knew all along about her daughter and Marcus, and she might even have encouraged it. Leaving Sarah's parents' house, I knew clearly that this marriage was doomed. Whether it was about people or money, Susan had just warned me that Marcus had friends in court. Even if I sued, I wouldn't get a favorable outcome. A cheating wife making her husband leave with nothing. No man could swallow that. Besides, I couldn't let Lily end up homeless with me. It seemed I had to get evidence of Sarah's affair to gain an advantage in the divorce. I went to an electronics store and bought a set of surveillance cameras. When Sarah wasn't home, I installed the cameras in the bedroom and living room. I told Sarah a friend needed me to help him with a long-haul drive, so I'd be gone for a few days. Sarah was eager for me to be gone, only telling me to take care of the old house transfer as soon as I returned. I agreed and left. I went to the bank to open a debit card, deposited the cash I brought back from overseas, then bought a bag of food and drinks and checked into a hotel room. For the next few days, I wouldn't go anywhere. I planned to stay in the hotel room, waiting for Sarah to bring Marcus home, to capture evidence of their affair. That afternoon, Sarah indeed brought Marcus home. Unexpectedly, Susan also went. The three of them sat on the living room sofa, discussing the divorce. Susan spoke first. Sarah, Ethan said he wants half the money, and one house in the divorce. You can't agree to that. I know, Sarah scoffed. Except for his daughter, he won't get a single penny from me. Marcus asked, are you going to give the child to Ethan? Of course, it'll just be the two of us from now on, so I certainly can't have a burden. There are advantages to having the child too, Marcus said with a smile. Lily can cook and do housework. She's better than hiring a housekeeper. Besides, if the child is with you, Ethan will have to pay you child support every month, $2,000 or $3,000 a month. Wouldn't that be nice? Why didn't I think of that? Sarah poked Marcus' chest with her finger. You are clever. Marcus grabbed her hand and kissed it. I'm always thinking of you. Susan, sitting nearby, ignored their sickening display of affection, clearly accustomed to it. Sarah, it's fine if Lily stays with you, but try to limit her contact with Ethan. Lily was there when your mother-in-law had her attack, and I'm afraid she might accidentally blurt something out. What does a little kid understand? Sarah said dismissively, what if she tells Ethan about that day? If she dares to blab, I'll beat her until she can't speak. Marcus also advised her, it's better to be careful with everything. Hurry up and get the divorce done smoothly, get the money and the houses, and don't create any complications. Marcus is right, however. I think Ethan won't easily give up his MOMS house. This is too much trouble. Sarah pouted, flirting with Marcus. Why don't you think of another way to just get rid of Ethan for good? Marcus was startled. You can't just say things like that. There are no outsiders here. Why are you pretending to be so proper? Sarah leaned bonelessly against him. Wasn't it your idea about Ethan's mom back then? Come on, think of another way to get rid of Ethan too. That's different. Ethan's mom already had asthma. We just put some hazelnut powder in her soup to trigger an asthma attack, then delayed getting her to the hospital. That solved it. Ethan is a healthy living person. If we poisoned him, the police would definitely trace it back to us. So what do? We can't just give him the money and the houses, can we? I have an idea. Susan leaned closer. Marcus, didn't you say you have a friend at a psychiatric facility? We can just say Ethan has a mental illness, have him committed, and after half a year or so, if he dies in there, no one will know. Then Sarah, as his heir, can inherit all his property. Ethan isn't sick. Forcing him into commitment would pose a certain risk to my friend too. Marcus' tone was hesitant. Let's think of other ways. They spent the entire afternoon discussing this, but couldn't come up with a better plan. I had always thought Mom passed away because her chronic condition relapsed. I never imagined it was their doing. Originally, I just wanted to collect evidence of their affair to get custody of my daughter and my rightful share of the property during the divorce. But now, everything was different. As a son, I would never let Mom die unavenged. They had to face the punishment they deserved. I stayed at the hotel for 2 days, thinking a lot. Early on the 3rd day, after checking out of the hotel, I went straight to the hospital. 4 years ago, when Sarah's mother was hospitalized, I spent over half a month caring for her, so I was very familiar with the surgical ward. When I arrived at the doctor's office, Marcus was on his way out, preparing for rounds. Seeing me, he jumped in surprise. What are you doing here? Drive. Marcus, we need to have a serious talk about you and my wife. I raised my voice, immediately attracting many people's attention. Marcus' pupils dilated in fear. Let's talk over there. He pulled me towards the stairwell. Of course, I refused. My injured leg gave way, and I fell to the ground. Help. A doctor is assaulting me. People immediately gathered around, patient families and medical staff alike. What's going on? A man in his 50s walked over, frowning. Drive. Adams, this is a patient's family member. Before Marcus could finish, I lunged forward and grabbed the hem of Drive. Adams' white coat. Are you Drive? Adams. Are you going to control your subordinate? My mother-in-law was treated here. and Marcus actually got involved with my wife. No, it's all a misunderstanding. Marcus was sweating with anxiety. This is a hospital. What kind of behavior is this? Arguing like this. Drive. Adams glanced at Marcus. You and this family member go to my office and explain the misunderstanding clearly. Drive. Adams politely invited me into his office, then left, citing an emergency patient. Marcus glared at me, seething. Ethan, what exactly do you want by causing a scene at my workplace? I have only one demand, I said defiantly. Sarah and I will divorce, and she must leave with nothing. If you don't agree, I'll come and make trouble at your workplace every day. No sooner had I stepped out of the hospital than I received a call from Sarah. Ethan, you bastard. If you have a problem, deal with me. Why are you causing trouble at Marcus Hospital? He used his position to seduce a patient's family member. He did it, but he doesn't want anyone to talk about it. I scoffed. Sarah's tone softened. Ethan, we were husband and wife. Do we really need to go to such lengths? Come back, and we can discuss things properly. I don't have time. I need to take Mom's urn back to my childhood home, and bury her next to Dad. I might not be back until the day after tomorrow. By the way, Lily has never been back there, so I've taken 2 days off school for her to come with me. Fine, take her. Sarah didn't care about her daughter at all. She only cared about her and Marcus' interests. Let me know in advance when you'll be back. All right, in the next 2 days, you and Marcus should discuss this thoroughly. My voice carried a threat. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, I'll go to his hospital every day. He cuckolded me and made me uncomfortable, so he won't have it easy either. Sarah said nothing more, but from the hurried breathing I heard over the phone, I could tell how furious she was. I collected Mom's urn and took Lily with me back to my childhood home. When Dad was buried 10 years ago, a spot was reserved for Mom. This time, we reopened the gravestones to bury them together. I took Lily and knelt and paid respects before the grave, silently vowing in my heart, Mom, I'm back. I know you were murdered, and I will avenge your death. Please, you and Dad, bless Lily to grow up quickly and live a long, peaceful life. Back in the small town, I entrusted Lily to Uncle Ben and Carol. They had been very fond of me when I was a child, and now, seeing Lily return, they were especially kind to her. I told Lily that summer break was coming soon, and the school had already given her leave, so she wouldn't need to attend before the break. Dad had to go out for some errands, and she would stay with her great-uncle for a few days. Lily clutched my sleeve tightly, her eyes filled with panic. Dad, please come back soon. Don't leave me again. I hugged her close. You are Dad's precious girl. Dad will definitely come back for you. Behind the small town was a hill. When I was little, my friends and I would run wild on the hill as soon as school was out. The adults at home were busy and had no time to look after us. Sometimes, when it was the season, they would even have us carry small baskets to the hill to gather wild berries and mushrooms, which they would then sell in the town. It had been many years since I'd been back to my childhood home. Climbing the hill again, my mood brightened. It had rained 2 days prior, and many mushrooms had sprouted on the hill. As I foraged for mushrooms, I kept an eye on the situation via my phone's surveillance feed. Sure enough, my scene at the hospital made Marcus and Sarah uneasy. They called Sarah's mom, and the 3 of them gathered at my house to discuss their next move. Marcus paced back and forth in the living room, looking exasperated. Drive. Adams talked to me again today. If Ethan keeps causing trouble, he won't be able to protect me. If this escalates, I might lose my job. It's that serious. Sarah was startled. The director just held a meeting recently, talking about rectifying medical ethics. If at this time, people say I have an inappropriate relationship with a patient's family member, and her husband comes knocking, it'll be like slapping the director in the face. He'll have no choice but to suspend me. So what do we do? Should I give Ethan one of the houses? He doesn't just want one house now, he wants you to leave with nothing. Susan's eyes gleamed with ruthlessness. If you ask me, at this point, there's only one solution: get rid of Ethan. Mom, you are not telling me to commit murder, are you? Sarah was terrified. Of course not, Susan said, looking at Marcus. Marcus, didn't you say you have a friend at a psychiatric facility? We can just say Ethan has a mental illness, have him committed, and then he won't be able to make trouble at your hospital anymore. Sarah disagreed. If he's committed to a psychiatric facility, how can I get a divorce? You won't need to, Marcus said with a slight smile. In a few months, if he dies in there, You can inherit all his property. That's a good plan. Next, the three of them began to strategize how to have me committed to a psychiatric facility. Marcus suggested they could put sleeping pills in my food, drug me, then simply drive me away in a car. Sarah said she couldn't do it alone as a woman, and asked Marcus to come help her that day. Watching Sarah eagerly discuss how to harm her own husband, the last trace of hesitation in my heart vanished. I dialed Sarah's phone. MOMS urn has been placed, and I plan to return tomorrow. Ask Marcus if he can come over tomorrow evening, and the three of us can have dinner and finalize the divorce in person. Sarah covered her phone, seemingly discussing it with Marcus. All right, tomorrow evening it is. All right, everything was set. The show was about to begin. The next afternoon, I returned home. Sarah was puzzled to see me return alone. Why didn't Lily come back with you? I had her stay with Uncle Ben for a few days. I said impatiently, we are discussing divorce. Do you think Lily should be present for that? Sarah was probably preoccupied with the plans for tonight and didn't care whether Lily returned or not. All right then. Marcus will be here after work at 5. I'll make a few dishes. You can help me. This bastard cuckolded me, and now I have to serve him. Is there no justice? I grumbled under my breath, my hands helping to prepare vegetables. By the way, that bag of mushrooms in the kitchen, I foraged for mushrooms on the hill back home. You are not allowed to cook them for that guy. Sarah shot me a sideways glance. It's just a bag of mushrooms. What's so precious about them? They are wild, from the mountain. They sell for $180 a pound outside. I picked them to give as a gift to Lily's teacher. Sarah snorted and said nothing more. The two of us worked together to prepare 6 dishes. When the food was on the table, Marcus arrived. During dinner, Marcus was very polite to me, calling me Ethan every other word and personally pouring me wine. He was so polite that I found it hard to say anything. After 2 bottles of beer, I steered the conversation towards the main topic. I was away for a few years, and you got involved with my wife. While I'm angry, some of it is my own fault. Since you two want to be together, I won't stop you, but we have an understanding. A divorce is fine. But Lily stays with me. Marcus, all right. Sarah and I know how much you love Lily, so she can stay with you. This house was bought by my family, and I am keeping it. As for the money, I earned all of it through hard work. The amount spent on Sarah's mother's medical bills can be overlooked, but the rest belongs to me. Sarah immediately protested, no way. Why should it all go to you? I glared. If you don't want to, then let's not get divorced. Well, just keep going as we are. This isn't set in stone, Marcus said, giving Sarah a look. I brought a bottle of red wine. When I came over, it's in the kitchen. Go open it and let Ethan have some. Sarah agreed and went to the kitchen. When she returned, she held 2 glasses, handing one to me, and the other to Marcus. I didn't take it. Why does he get a new glass, while I get an old one? Sarah quickly explained. He's a guest, isn't he? You don't give a guest an old glass, HMPH. I scoffed. He's spent more time living here than I have these past few years. In your eyes, I am the outsider, aren't I? Sarah rolled her eyes at me. We're almost divorced. What's the point of talking about useless things? No, I want a new glass today too. Sarah glared at me, about to say something more, but Marcus nudged her, and she reluctantly left. A moment later, she came out of the kitchen carrying a glass full of red wine, and placed it heavily in front of me. Drink up. I glanced at her. It's rare to see you so attentive. You're acting like you're trying to poison me. Sarah looked a bit flustered. What nonsense are you talking about? I snorted. It's a society governed by law now. I doubt you dare. With that, I downed the red wine in the glass. I didn't know if it was my imagination, but Sarah and Marcus clearly breathed a sigh of relief. I then asked, how did Mom die? Sarah said, your MOMS chronic condition, asthma, flared up. By the time I got back, she was already gone. MOMS asthma hadn't acted up in years. How could it suddenly flare up? Did you give her something she shouldn't have eaten? I slammed my hand on the table and stood up, but a wave of dizziness hit me. My body swayed, and I quickly grabbed the corner of the table for support. Sarah and Marcus exchanged a look, then both came over to steady me. What's wrong? I feel dizzy. Do you feel dizzy, weak all over, and lacking strength? Marcus asked me. Yes. I felt increasingly wrong. My eyelids grew heavy. Fighting to stay open, I tried to control myself, to stay awake, That's the drug taking effect. Marcus chuckled. Most people take 1 tablet, and it works within half an hour. I gave you 5 times the dose, so you're feeling it now. You really dared to drug me? I pointed at them, feeling as if their figures were swaying endlessly before my eyes. Don't be afraid. It's just a common sleeping pill. As you said, it's a society governed by law. We wouldn't do anything illegal. We just want you to get a good night's sleep. When you wake up, I'll be in a good place. I wanted to get up and beat the 2 of them, but my body wouldn't obey. I slumped onto the chair like a puddle, my eyelids uncontrollably closing. In my last conscious moment before losing awareness, I heard Marcus' smug voice. Oh, right, I can answer your question now. Sarah and I planned your MOMS death. We put some hazelnut powder in the chicken and mushroom stew, and when she ate it, her asthma flared up. When I woke up again, I was in an unfamiliar place. The walls around me were stark white, and my limbs were strapped to the bed. It was only by listening to the conversations between the doctors and nurses that I realized I was in a psychiatric facility. I didn't make a fuss. When they told me to take medicine, I took it. When they told me to sleep, I slept. But when they weren't paying attention, I'd secretly pinch my thigh hard to try and stay as conscious as possible. I looked out the window, silently counting. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Sure enough, on the 3rd day of my stay at the psychiatric facility, the police arrived. Sarah was dead, and Marcus and Susan were in the ICU. According to the police, they had accidentally eaten poisonous mushrooms. This type of mushroom was called Amanita phalloides also known as the death cap. It was highly toxic, with an incubation period of up to 24 hours after consumption. The day after Marcus and Sarah sent me to the psychiatric facility, Sarah stir-fried the mushrooms I had brought back from the mountain and ate them. She even sent some of the leftovers to her mom. The next day, when Marcus discovered the symptoms, he was at the hospital and immediately received emergency treatment. He was still not out of critical condition. Sarah wasn't as lucky. When she first developed symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea, she thought she'd just eaten something bad and casually took 2 pills. By the time she developed difficulty breathing and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, her condition had already worsened. She quickly fell into a coma and was pronounced dead. As for Susan, who ate the mushrooms a day later than them, she had just begun showing symptoms when Sarah was taken to the hospital for emergency treatment. Because she received timely medical attention, she survived. The police took me back and asked about the source of the poisonous mushrooms. I told them I had picked them from the mountain in my childhood home, intending to give them to my daughter's teacher. This was exactly what they had heard in the surveillance camera footage from my house. They tried to question me further, but I interrupted them. Officers, I said, you picked me up from a psychiatric facility. Shouldn't you first assess my mental state before asking questions? Otherwise, would you dare to use information provided by a psychiatric patient? The 2 detectives taking notes exchanged a look, and sure enough, arranged for someone to take me to a designated hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Soon, the evaluation results came back. The evaluation results show that your mental state is completely normal. You can answer questions now. Officers, does this mean that after I leave here, I can go home and won't be confined to a psychiatric facility anymore? If you can prove your innocence, you're free to leave. I smiled and nodded. All right. Please ask, when you picked the mushrooms, did you know they were poisonous? No, I didn't. You grew up in the countryside. Wouldn't you recognize them? Many mushrooms look similar. Anyone could mistake them. At this, I looked at them in surprise, not suggesting that I intentionally picked poisonous mushrooms for them to eat. Are you? Isn't that the case? The old detective stared intently at me. They not only cheated on you, but they also conspired to kill your mother. You have sufficient motive, but I was drugged with sleeping pills by them and sent to a psychiatric facility at the time. How could I have poisoned them while I was in the facility? Perhaps you learned of their plan from the surveillance camera footage and intentionally played along, pretending to be drugged and committed to the psychiatric facility to avoid suspicion. Before the incident, you intentionally told them there were mushrooms in the fridge and that they were nutritious, tricking them into eating the mushrooms themselves. You wouldn't have to lift a finger to eliminate them. Officers, your imaginations are quite vivid. In a society governed by law, everything requires evidence. What you just said can only be considered speculation, not proof. A faint smile played on my lips. Even if I did orchestrate all this, they still had to go through with it. If Marcus hadn't been so greedy, and Sarah hadn't been so heartless, no one could have punished them. One could only say it was fate. 24 hours later, I was released due to a lack of evidence for murder. Sarah was dead, and although Marcus and Susan survived, they both suffered lasting complications from severe liver damage. The police obtained evidence from the surveillance camera footage that they had intentionally put hazelnut powder, leading to my mother's death. They were sentenced to life imprisonment and a 15-year prison sentence, respectively, after being discharged from the hospital. A long period of incarceration awaited them, of course. These were all later developments. I returned to my childhood home to pick up Lily, and told her about Sarah's death. Lily was initially a little sad and confused. Once her emotions settled, her first question was a timid one. "Dad, are you going to leave again?" "No, sweetie. Dad won't leave again. He'll stay by your side until you grow up and get married." "Dad, you have to keep your promise," my daughter said, hugging me tightly. "Now I only have you. Don't worry. Dad will definitely keep his promise," I said, extending my pinky finger. "Come on, let's pinky promise." Our big hand and small hand linked together, solemnly sealed it with a promise. It was the annual memorial trip again, and I took Lily home to visit the family graves. Lily had changed a lot this past year, turning back into the cheerful, talkative little girl she used to be. She personally arranged flowers and offerings in front of the gravestones, chattering excitedly about fun things from school. After paying respects to my parents, I took my daughter to climb the hill behind the small town. This season, there were many wild berries and mushrooms. I took her digging for wild greens, picking fruits, and foraging for mushrooms. My daughter found everything new and exciting in just half a day. The small basket we brought was completely full. "Dad, there are more mushrooms here," my daughter exclaimed, running toward a large tree. "Sweetie, don't touch that one," I said, hurrying after her. I pulled out a wet wipe and carefully cleaned her small hands. Where she had touched the mushroom, I pointed at the grayish-brown mushroom with a hint of dark green. "This kind of mushroom is poisonous. You can't eat it." "How do you know?" my daughter asked, looking up at me. "Have you eaten it before?" "If I had, you wouldn't be here now," I said with a smile, taking Lily's hand and walking down the hill. "Dad, tell me about when you were little," she requested. "All right, back then, after school, the adults at home were too busy to look after us, so we'd just play all over the mountains. This mountain was our playground. Whether it was animals, wild greens, fruits, or mushrooms, there wasn't anything Dad didn't recognize."